And they're arguing whether they should be calling demons or principalities gods.
First time to the belief that there may be a devil.
How could you not believe there's a devil? Jordan Peterson says they opened the door. Now he's talking about opening the door to unclean spirits.
Transcendent principality, and it is a spirit and a personality. There's a satanic element to it that's like, it's like satanic in the poetic
kind of mimesis of malice.
Exactly that.
Guys, what they're trying to figure out is demons. Jordan Peterson talks about demons. This is going to be interesting. This is from his video, How Many Gods Are There? Biblical Series Exodus. As usual, we'll link the full video in the description, but I want to react to this and watch it. Let's do this.
I guess my objection was whether we call them gods or not, they have a proclivity to act like deities.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the biblical view of idols, though, isn't it?
Yes. Well,
powers in which we're making our...
But it's deeper than that in some sense, because you could think of...
And they're arguing whether they should be calling demons or principalities gods, that being a lowercase god, which the Bible says the devil is the lowercase god of this world. But I digress. We'll see what they say here.
An idol is just an arbitrary human construction. But what I would say instead, it's not. It's the raising of a principality to the highest place. And so you say, well, my God is Priapus, let's say. And many people say that now. In fact, it's almost mandatory to say that. So,
but less than the highest place.
Right.
Because
well, it's in
God.
Yes, you could imagine
Yes.
demonic agencies being recognized by Satanists as God, as something they would bow down before.
It's the raised to the highest
Absolutely.
place, and that's what we're objecting to.
And there's no disagreement that.
I don't know. I want to know, Dennis. What do you think? Like, do you have a sense of the notion of principalities or demons? Is this something that you entertain in your worldview?
So
We're giving you the hard questions today, Dennis.
Yes, indeed, and I'm honored. Is it your Dennis or your?
Well, you're
as I understand,
you're
Jewish.
Here, so I'm asking you, and you can answer the way you want to answer.
I'm a strict monotheist. There's one God, end of issue. There are no demons. Even I will say though, to my own shock, the last years in the Western world have opened me up for the first time to the belief that there may be a devil.
You're walking around.
So he says he doesn't believe there's demons, but now he's starting to think maybe there is a devil. How could you not believe there's a devil? You could literally turn on the television for a few minutes and see that the devil's alive and well, moving and functioning and using his demons to control people and to demonize people and everything like that.
The demons are walking around in the street.
They said the demons are walking around now.
I'm not kidding. I wish I were. There's no levity to what I'm saying, but it is almost impossible to explain the rejection of what is good and the celebration of what is wrong so radically and so quickly without recourse to some other force in the universe. And I don't believe it because Jews believe, unlike Zoroastrianism, where there are two gods, a good God and a bad God, where there is Satan is only in Job in the Hebrew Bible, and it only means...
So as an Orthodox Jew, it sounds like he is. I don't know all these men fully, but it sounds like he's saying an Orthodox Jew does not believe in a literal devil or demons. So he's saying, but now maybe he's changing his stance because of what's going on in the world?
Opponent, yes. Adversary, yes.
But Dennis, Book of Daniel, you have the princes and so on. They have supernatural power. I agree with you. There's only one God.
Right.
But the supernatural powers higher than human powers.
So let me...
I have to explore that.
Let me riff on that for a second. So here's...
It's interesting that you could be the age that guy is and say, I have to explore that. Like I haven't explored the idea that there would be literal demons, which Daniel chapter 10 talks about what he's describing, the prince of the power of Persia, which was a demonic principality that was actually fighting an archangel. And the angel came to Daniel and said, I'm going to give you this message, but I got to go back and help fight this principality. That was a ruling, high-ranking principality demon over a region.
The way of conceptualizing it, well, let's do this biologically again. So we can take something like anger or lust, and you might, like psychologists tend to conceptualize those as drives, or reflexes or instincts. It's a poor conceptualization, and here's why. And I mean this scientifically. A fundamental motivational force that's transcendent, so it's shared by all humans, it's shared by all mammals, let's say, it's shared by reptiles for that matter, like it's archaic. Lust would be that, anger would be that, fear would be that, pain. those are best conceptualized as personalities. And why?
Wow. Did you guys catch what he said? He said lust, anger, these things are categorized, and this is a clinical psychologist talking, as personalities, which we've always said, Ephesians 6, we're fighting against persons without bodies. Demons are personalities. They have a will. They're persons that don't have physical bodies that long to live inside of a body, according to Matthew chapter 12. But interesting to hear Jordan Peterson, which he's going to go a lot deeper into this, but such an educated clinical psychologist saying these are categorized as personalities.
Why do I say that? It's because they have a viewpoint. They have a telos. They frame emotions. Like, the best way to think about
a telos is like an aim, a goal.
Anger is a personality, and you know that perfectly well. If you get very irritated when you're arguing with someone and you're possessed by the spirit of anger, it changes.
Whoa, Jordan Peterson says you're possessed by the spirit of anger.
It changes your perceptions, it changes your emotions, it changes your view of the future, your view of the past. It's a fragmentary sub-personality that then takes over the whole. And then you could imagine that a malevolent sub-personality, so for all intents and purposes, a demon.
So he's talking now about a demon. He makes it clear. He says, for all intents and purposes, a malevolent personality, which we're talking about a demon. But the way he's describing that they play on and drive on these emotions
is an aggregate of those fundamental sub-personalities that's integrated in a manner that's very, very powerful and that partakes of that motivational force. Maybe you're angry and afraid and resentful and lustful all at the same time, and that's it. It's like a very high-order malevolent spirit has got you in its grip. And there is a reality to that. Now, we wouldn't want to say that if we're going to reserve the term God for the highest possible unity, it's definitely not that. But it's certainly it's a transcendent principality, and it is a spirit and a personality.
So Jordan Peterson, again, a clinical psychologist, is saying that these malevolent personalities that even psychologists recognize, he says they are spirits, whether you call them lowercase gods, which is what this whole debate's about. I'm just not going to play the full debate here, or the whole argument is about, or you call them demons. There are these spirits that play and drive into anger, addiction, lust, perversion, the stuff he's naming. Demons really do feed on these natural, fleshly, not just emotions, but personalities. And then the demon really ignites that. They throw gas on that fire. So if you're angry, they might take you, that anger, to that next level, or you feel that rage come over you, or that lust randomly come over you. These are demons really driving into the natural proclivities of the flesh or of the man to lust or to anger or to, because it's not all demonic, but these demons these personalities partner with that, play on that. And it's interesting to hear Jordan Peterson. I've watched some of his stuff, very educated. All these guys obviously are highly educated, but for him to recognize these are demonic spirits is very interesting.
The way you framed that, Jordan, is still basically metaphorical, isn't it?
So he's going, catch what he said, it's basically metaphorical, right? Like, you're not really talking about entities, principalities, demons, these malevolent beings that are real personalities. He's like, you're being metaphorical, right?
This is still, you talk about being possessed, but I mean, the tradition.
They're like, no, we're not talking. Jordan Peterson's partner's like, we're not talking metaphorical here.
I mean, certainly the Christian tradition has demons. Demons have agency.
But those demons are allied very closely to our passions.
Sure.
They're almost like a cosmic version of the local passion.
And there are certain ways in which, through the kind of free agency of the individual, they could kind of admit they can conduct themselves in a way that makes them more vulnerable to those kind of external agencies.
Well, they open the door to it.
But would you?
Jordan Peterson says they open the door. Now he's talking about opening the door to unclean spirits. He's like, he's trying to figure out, is this metaphorical? Is this real? This guy's asking him, and he goes, well, they're opening the door
to these
demons.
Jordan, you would accept that there are, as it were, extrinsic sources that are going to operate on the psychological structures of an agent, in addition to the kind of cumulative weight of all the bad decisions.
It's microcosm, macrocosm. Yeah. You have to see the human person as a microcosm, and then these cosmic forces. So we are.
Okay. Was that what Jordan was setting out?
I think
that you're comfortable with that.
So.
Okay.
Well, it is complicated too, because
it's interesting to hear these really educated guys. Not a lot of them have much to say about the spiritual realm. Man, you could be so educated and know, but the spiritual realm has much mystery to it. And until you start studying the Word of God and then also experiencing these things, whether it's in deliverance or in spiritual warfare, then there's not a lot you could bring to the table when it comes to intellectually about spiritual beings, because these can't be described in an intellectual way.
So imagine that you're possessed by an aggregate of these motivational states.
Okay, well, because there you're saying motivational states,
well,
so that, okay.
Let me elaborate it
All right.
one bit further, though, because you could also imagine that there are culturally developed manners in which that aggregate has expressed itself. So, for example, let's take the Columbine killer, for example. So I read his writings, and I put myself in his position, let's say that brooding position on evil. Like, so he allowed himself to be possessed by a set of motivational states, one of which was certainly covetousness, certainly resentment, hatred.
Interesting.
Powerful, dark motivations. But the manner in which that manifested itself also had a culturally conditioned element, right? I mean, there's a satanic element to it that's like, it's like satanic in the poetic
kind of
Milton,
mimesis of
Miltonic
malice.
sense. Exactly that.
Yeah.
And you see this, you really see this with the mass slayers, because they compete with one another. So there's a subculture of high school shooters underground, and they know of each other, and they try to outdo each other. And so that's a mimesis
But Jordan,
of
would you
sorts.
go one further? I mean, you're going individual, cultural,
Yeah.
microcosm, macrocosm. Would you go natural, supernatural?
Well, that's-
So I think there's
supernatural.
still a distinction between the
No,
way
it's
you
part
put
of
it out,
everything.
Jordan, and the way that...
Okay, well, but then I would also say, this is where it gets very complicated, is that malevolence that's a combination of bottom-up biological motivation and then cultural
And
elaboration,
cultural mimetic
also
effects.
a reflection of some cosmic form.
I think
and
that's
I would
what-
say, I think it is.
Okay, great,
I
we're
think it
agreed.
is.
Okay.
Well,
Wait, you're not agreeing.
I am agreeing.
I was agreeing with you because you weren't agreeing with him.
I wanted to...
They're trying to pin Jordan down and say, is it a demon or not? In one sense, is it just a psychological state of being mentally? Because the other guy that's saying you're not agreeing, he doesn't believe in demons. He just said that. This guy's on the fence like, is it a demon or not? You're not saying it's a demon, is it? And Jordan's like, no, that's what I'm saying.
tease out the
Well,
tension
I don't
between these
understand.
two.
How is it? Wait.
Well, I think
wait,
it's
we don't produce anger. We don't produce lust. They're outside of us.
No.
So now the guy who doesn't believe in demons is trying to figure out, wait, you're saying that there's other forces, malevolent forces outside of us that are producing anger in us and all these
We're
other
not
things?
saying that.
Well, I thought then I don't
it's
understand
not
what's being said.
I mean, a simple way to say it is that anger in you is similar to anger in Stephen or in me, and because it's similar, there's a being that's a. It's hard to.
Anger
because
exists
people-
even if you die.
That's right. There's a good way to say it. That's right.
Right, anger is something that grips you. And so it's got a reality that transcends you.
Guys, what they're trying to figure out is demons. Are you guys catching this? They're trying to intellectually figure out there's something controlling you. It's in you, it's in me, it's in this person. It overtakes us. And Jordan's like, and then it's like, yeah, these are demons. And they're like, are you really saying demons? He's like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. These are unclean, these are malevolent beings, principalities, you can call them what you want. But these are personalities, as Jordan said earlier, that come upon us and overtake us. And they're just trying to like figure this out intellectually, but it's like the light bulbs are turning on. Yes, there's something there. The anger in you, anger in me, there's something going on here.
Then how do I control it? Why am I responsible? If I act out evilly in anger and anger controls me, I have an excuse.
Well,
So he would take the stance of what a lot of religious people say that don't do deliverance or know about the spiritual realm is like, well, it's not everything's a demon. If it's a demon, it's not your fault. But not realizing demons do not control us. They're not going to make you stand up and go do something bad. They're going to influence you. They're going to whisper into your ear. They're going to give you an overwhelming desire that you would have to act upon. So this is not what you think of like when you see the movie The Exorcist, where the demon just takes over your body. These are desires, overwhelming desires that the demons convince you to go do something. And some people just give into those desires. So a lot of people would say, well, it's a cop-out. It's not a cop-out. These demons, we're the ones doing it, but the demons are convincing us, tricking us, lying to us, the wiles of the devil.
my answer to that would be
It's the bottom up and
I
top
don't-
down thing
I don't know exactly what to say about that, apart from the fact that there are other forces within you, including you, that give you the ability to control it, even if it.
Exactly. There are other forces within you, even if it's you, that give you the ability to control it. So these demons are not controlling, taking over, but you have part of that control as well, which is what the guy can't understand.
Has some autonomy of its own. Like, you don't have to give yourself over to anger. even though it beckons to you.
Good point.
You know, and you remember in the story of Cain and Abel, you think about how that sets itself up. So Cain is resentful and bitter and angry. And the reason for that is his sacrifices are rejected. And then sin sits at his door, like it's externalized as a...
Now, he's giving the guy the Old Testament because that guy's, I believe, a Jew, doesn't believe in the New Testament, obviously, or Jesus. So he's giving him Old Testament to relate to what, you know, his
tempting
thinking.
Spirit, and he has to invite it in. You know, it's the same idea in stories of vampiric possession, is you have to invite the vampire through the window. So I would say you can open yourself up to this possession or decide not to do it.
So Jordan Peterson, preaching, says you can open yourself up to this possession, this demonization, I would call it, this spirit, this malevolent being, or you can close the door, which is what we always talk about, the demons coming through an open door. So even here we have Jordan Peterson, clinical psychologist. I know many of you are probably a fan. I've watched some of his stuff. I think he's absolute genius, absolutely brilliant. And he's, you know, becoming, or I believe he's a Christian now, but he's gone through this road of becoming a Christian publicly. And man, really powerful statement here.
And there's an element of free choice in that for sure. And this is why God calls Cain out. And the Cain and Abel story is very ambivalent in some way, because it isn't exactly obvious why God rejects Cain's sacrifices. And I love that about the story, because people fail in life and it's not exactly obvious why. And they get bitter and resentful about it. And then you might say, well, does that justify, because they're hurt so badly, because they've failed, does that justify their vengefulness? And the Cain and Abel story says, no, it sets them up for it. That spirit of sin approaches them, but they still decide whether or not they're going to open the door.
Doesn't it?
Wow. So he says, are they responsible? Yeah, because they're the ones that they still have to decide to open up that door. It doesn't negate responsibility, but it is a part of the process when you open up that door. Very interesting to hear Jordan Peterson say this.
Say that he brought an inferior sacrifice?
Yes, but
so it does explain why God preferred
no, it doesn't
Abel's.
exactly say that, Dennis. It says that Abel's sacrifice is of the highest quality.
Yes.
And it implies that Cain is lesser, but it never really explains what he's doing wrong.
Interesting. He says, no, it doesn't say that he brought an inferior. It just says Abel's was greater, implying it was inferior. Super interesting stuff. Jordan Peterson, clearly describing a demon, a personality, says that there must be an open door. You invite them in. Some of his colleagues, you know, they don't believe in demons. They can't wrap their head around that. But it's interesting to hear some of these very educated men trying to piece together and figure out what are these malevolent beings that clearly are there in present day of mass shooters, school shooters, people, whether it's lust or rage or anger or bitterness. How does that involve the human psyche? And these are psychologists, and then some of them, obviously not all psychologists, but interesting to hear them wrestle with this, debate this. I'll put this video in the comments. There's another 6 minutes where they're talking about, are demons considered gods, lowercase gods? Would we call them gods? And one of the guys says, we wouldn't like to call them gods because we reserve that title for the only God, Yahweh. But in a sense, the Bible does speak of lowercase g's. And then there's another element of these demons are worshipped in ancient pagan culture, and idols are worshipped and exalted to the place of God. So they're wrestling all this out. But I wanted to point out the very point of Jordan Peterson recognizing, yes, there's demons. Yes, these are personalities. And yes, you have to open up the door to them. Interesting about that. I would be interested to have Jordan Peterson on the podcast to talk about some of these things. So maybe I'll reach out to him and see if he'd come on a Tuesday night on the live stream. We are live Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. Join in the live streams. Partner with the ministry down below. Let me know what you guys think about the video. Very interesting, because I've never heard Jordan Peterson talk about demons, and I am interested to hear what he thought about it. So glad that I was able to cover this. We'll see you guys in the next video. God bless.